Now, given the fact that it is summertime, there are certain notes that I know people like to wear. Citrus, mint, sometimes even bright floral notes, especially those leaning on the clean side of things. But I know there are a lot of fragrances that also contain salt accords, and there are salty fragrances on the market. And of course, those are specifically the fragrances that smell aquatic, ozonic, oceanic. And this is a perfect genre for the summertime. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the top 10 best salty fragrances in my collection and ones that I think actually have a nice bit of wearability to them. I'm excited to share this list with you, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin this video and I tell you about these 10 salty fragrances, why I enjoy them so much, and I also try to go over what makes each one different from the other, I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Make sure to hit that bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something today, or if I gave you the opportunity to discover a fragrance that maybe you didn't know that much about. So with that being said, 10 salty fragrances. I think all of the fragrances in this list are really, really wonderful. They all have a high level of wearability, and so for that reason, I didn't include fragrances like Sel Maran by Healy. That one actually smells kind of fishy. And there's another one, Oud Mineral by Tom Ford. I'm not a huge fan of that fragrance. I own both of those fragrances. I've done videos on them, but I'm just, not a fan of the latter. So I wanted to actually include fragrances that are different, fragrances that really do smell salty, but also fragrances that are easy to wear and that have a high wearability factor to them. So with that being said, let's start off with the first one. And of course, I had to mention this one by Jo Malone, probably one of the more popular ones, Wood Sage and Sea Salt. This one is a little fruity, it's a little creamy. At times it even comes across a little lactonic, so like milky, but it does have the woodsy components. It has the aromatic heart, and it also has that salty accord in the opening. Now, perhaps it's not going to be as strong as the salt accord in some other fragrances on this list, and so for that reason, I'm kind of putting it in the number 10 spot, but of course it had to make its way onto this list. Now, the next fragrance has a lot of really bright citrus notes in here. There's a dry down of agarwood, and this one does have this sort of ambergris, agarwood, and salt vibe to it. By Amouroud, this is called Wet Stone. Really salty, but done in a way that is so easy to wear. High compliment factor as well, and I think it's a little bit more on the simple side of things. I don't think it's ultra complex, but what it does it very, very well. Wet Stone by Amouroud is a great fragrance in my opinion. Of course, if we're talking about the summertime, I have to mention Vanilla Vibes by Juliet Has a Gun. This fragrance is a salty tropical coconut type of a fragrance. Now, of course, I could have mentioned fragrances like Bronze Goddess by Estee Lauder. That's another great suntan lotion, sunblock kind of a fragrance. Vanilla Vibes, I really like the quality here, and I think it's an accessible fragrance. They do have it at Sephora. They have it in a bunch of stores. This one is awesome. Vanilla Vibes by Juliet Has a Gun is a really, really good fragrance. And then I also want to talk about another fragrance that kind of leans on the fruity side of things by Kieran NYC. This one is called Pier New York, or Pier NY. So this one has a really interesting seaweed note in here, but it also has a salted fig note in here. And fig is a fantasy note. Salt is a fantasy note. So there's a lot of fantasy notes in here, but it is kind of like a fruity, salty, woodsy fragrance. I suppose one that is reminiscent of being near or on the pier and being near the water, right? So Pier NY by Karen NYC, really cool, really well done, good performance from it as well. Now here we have one that I think might be a little bit harder to find. I hope it's not discontinued, and I hope the brand doesn't discontinue it, because I personally love this one. Really unique lavender, coffee, and seaweed. So that's where the salt is coming from. And this one from the Ibiza collection is called #Café del Mar by Ramon Monegal. amazing fragrance. If you're looking for something with some quirky elements to it, it has the coffee, it has the lavender, it has some spice, it has some woods, but that seaweed in the opening is really well done and authentically done, which I think is really important. Now here's a fragrance that has Tunisian orange blossom in it. So it has that floral vibe in the heart. It has this sort of salty grapefruit in the opening. This one I love too. And this one by Bdk Parfums is called Sel d'Argent. With this one, Sel, salt, is in the name, right? So you'll see a lot of fragrances have sel in the name, or they have like the French word for beach in the name. And so this one is definitely one that leans on the salty side of things. Sel d'Argent is awesome. This and Citrus Riviera are both great fragrances from this particular collection. I'm a huge fan. The next fragrance I want to talk about is brand new release, literally just came out in 2022. I've had this in my possession for like 3 weeks now or something like that. I'm not sure when I'm publishing this video, but this is a salty pineapple fragrance. Doesn't smell like Creed Aventus. It's salty, it's a little pineapple-y, passion fruit, clean white floral, vacation vibe. This one by Lumari Paris is called Porthole. Absolutely amazing. Love smelling this one. Love smelling it so much, in fact, I put it in the oil diffuser that I have in my bedroom because I want my bedroom to smell like it at all times. Not so much of a tropical oasis, but I do love the way that this fragrance smells, and I think it's amazing. The next fragrance on this list doesn't have a salt accord listed in the note breakdown, but there's definitely a strong salty vibe about this one. By Electimus London, it's called Black Caviar. Now you know what caviar is, right? Fish eggs. So this one is like a salty oud fragrance. It has the salt, it has a lot of other complex ingredients in here. It's actually been compared to Acqua di Sale by Profumum Roma, and I do think that the comparisons are warranted. I've tried Acqua di Sale on a number of occasions, especially during my many trips to Oswald and New York City when they were still around, and I never got around to purchasing that fragrance. So that is one of the reasons why that fragrance is not in this list, but Acqua di Sale is a really unique and peculiar salty fragrance by Profumum Roma. Black Caviar is an awesome salty take on oud. The fragrance in the number 2 spot was a recent purchase. I purchased this one about a week ago, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe about 6 days ago or something like that, by Christian Louboutin. This one is called Lubimar. Now, Lubimar is salt, tuberose, and clean white musk. Really, really nice. I'm actually getting ready to leave for vacation. If you're watching this video, I've probably already returned from my vacation because I'm trying to shoot these videos ahead of time. But this fragrance is one that I plan on bringing with me when I go to Europe later this evening, and it's an amazing salty floral fragrance that doesn't really smell like suntan lotion, which is great, right? Because there's so many fragrances that do that, and this one just kind of, you know, stays in its own lane, possesses uniqueness, does its own thing. So there's one more fragrance to reveal, and with that I would like to go over some honorable mentions. I think all of these fragrances are really nice when it comes to having a salty vibe or salty accord. I do have a small bottle of Sel de Vetiver by the Different Company. If you're looking for a salty take on vetiver, definitely check that out. Of course, there's also one of my favorites, Millésime Imperial by Creed. That is an amazing salty watermelon kind of a fragrance. I know I mentioned Selmaron by Healy, which is kind of on the fishy side of things. Oud Mineral, which is another salty oud fragrance. And then there's also Brain Dance by Broken Anatomy. That one has ambroxan and aldehydes. Doesn't really have salt in the note breakdown per se, but I do think that that's another great salty fragrance. And of course, there's also Squid by Zoologist. I don't have that bottle in my possession at the moment. I actually have it in another studio where I also shoot videos from time to time, but that one is also an incredible fragrance. So there are a lot of really great salty fragrances. Sans Secretions Magnifiques by Etat Libre d'Orange. That one is also salty, but it's a horrible fragrance. But with that being said, here we have the number 1 spot. I love this fragrance for a number of reasons. 1, it's unique. 2, it's relatively new. 3, you're gonna smell different from everyone else. 4, it has, in my opinion, the highest compliment factor out of everything on this list, with the exception of maybe Sel d'Argent. The compliment factor for Sel d'Argent by BDK is also very, very high. And it has a lot of really accommodating ingredients. It has ambroxan, it has isoe super, it has cashmeron, it has a bunch of citrus in the opening, which makes it smell really fresh, really lively. And this fragrance is amazing for this time of the year. We're talking the summer. And this one by Bdk Parfums is called Ambraser, or Ambraser, Ambraser. So this is an amazing, salty, aquatic, high compliment factor, ambroxan citrus bomb that smells absolutely incredible. Every single time I've worn this one, and I've had this one for a while now, every single time I've worn this one, somebody says, "What are you wearing?" Right? Or, "What's that you got on?" And on a number of occasions, I've had to tell people, and because it's a French name, French pronunciation, I've had to write it down for them. But Bdk Parfums Ambraser is an amazing fragrance for the summertime, and I know they also have a discovery set, which is really cool. I never recommend blind buying, but if you have the opportunity to, at the very least, get a discovery set so that you can try a sample of it, because the brand does have a lot of really wonderful fragrances. One that I would totally recommend. There you have it, ladies and gents, 10 salty fragrances for the summer 2022. And I suppose you can say this has been a niche list, except for, well, Jo Malone. Is that really niche? I think it is. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you learned something today. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.